Welcome and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. During the question and answer session, please press star 1 on your touch-tone phone to ask a question. Today's conference is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I will now turn the meeting over to Ms. Winona Redmond. You may begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Winona Redmond, the president of the National Black Public Relations Society. Please bear with my cold. The Midwest weather has been kind of choppy, so but I do want to give you a warm welcome to our final monthly webinar, Web Cafe, in the year 2010. I'd like to definitely thank Rochelle Payne, our secretary, but Web Cafe coordinator and creator. We've had 12 wonderful webinars this year, all tied to our mission on professional development. We learned lots about social media, lots about marketing, your business, marketing yourself, job trends, and how to survive in the economy. So many of us have been impacted by losing business, losing jobs, and I think that our web cafes have certainly brought some great information from recruiters to professionals to help us. So this is a web cafe that we have been making available to many people and members who have gone to the website and replayed them for this valuable information. So just want to say we've had a great year. Don't forget to go to NBPRS.org if you've missed any of the past webinars, because it's great information. And again, Rochelle, thank you for all you've done to help set up the web cafes, and Deborah Hyman, our executive vice president, who has been a wonderful partner in making the web cafe happen as well. We have a great speaker today. I don't want to take up too much of his time, but please stay tuned. This is the last monthly web cafe that we'll do. We will do periodic web cafes during 2011, but please mark your calendars for October 27th through the 30th, which will be the site of our next annual conference and career fair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And please also make sure that you stay tuned to NBPRS.org, renew your membership so that you can be included in our exciting network guide that will come out in February. Have a great holiday season, everyone. We look forward to working with you in 2011. But this is, we finished the year very strong with Norm Bond, an outstanding professional that is a new friend of NBPRS. So I'm going to turn it over to Rochelle Payne to introduce our speaker. Thank you.
Thanks, Winona. It's certainly been a pleasure bringing the Web Cafe to you, our members and our friends, and today's no exception. I'm excited to introduce today's speaker, Norm Bond. He's president of Norm Bond Associates, and I know that his bio is listed, and I can attest to the fact that he is widely recognized as an international authority on marketing, corporate diversity, sales, and multicultural issues. I met him earlier this year in Baltimore. He is also president of the National Alliance of Market Developers. He's based in Philly, and he is ready to share some valuable insights with you today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Norm Bond.
Thank you very much, Rochelle, and also thank you to all of the hardworking people at NBPRS, and thanks, of course, to everyone for joining in on this webinar. It's very exciting to be able to share some information about you and with you, and also utilize this technology in a way that really helps to benefit and empower all of us. So not only the members of NBPRS get the benefit, but I think it's great that they have extended this information to a broader community. So let's get started. We don't have a lot of time, so I want to make sure that we get as much out of this as we can, and I'll start by going into our learning objectives for today, which are, one, we want to look at the big picture of diversity along with how it's impacting marketing and also public relations. These are all three huge industries as well as opportunities, so we want to look at how we can look at these things from a wide lens. Next, we want to look at a strategic marketing and PR plan then that helps to leverage these issues, and particularly taking a strategic approach to starting at the top and being able to work it down and cascade it throughout the organization or your company. And then the third objective is really to see why everything that you do either is building or weakening your public relations efforts, and why you need to know what's going on, which efforts are building and which are taking away. So it leads to a question of, why do we say a PR renaissance? And there are several reasons that are apparent as we get into this that show that there's a lot of change. We're in a perfect storm, in fact, when you look at communications and when you look at things that are going on in the area of media. And so some of these big factors are coming together, can provide educational opportunities for you if you are a student and you're looking at a career choice. If you're a professional and you're looking to advance in your career, then this information can give you some insight that can help you accomplish that. And also, if you are an entrepreneur and you're someone who's looking at what are some trends, what are some opportunities for me to get involved in looking down the road. We all know about the great recession that we're going through. So you maybe, as we wind out the year, say, where should I be focusing my time and my energy? Could be some great entrepreneurial opportunities. You may be running a nonprofit organization, or you could be a community leader, and you're saying, well, what can I do in terms of connecting with people in my community that are also challenged for resources and need to be able to participate more broadly in the American dream. So I'm going to make a few assumptions. And, since we are doing this using the technology, and I'm not able to see your smiling faces and interact with you directly. So I made a few assumptions. One is that you're a communicator. You wouldn't be on this call, I'm assuming, if you didn't want to communicate. You didn't have some type of organization or persons, or even if it's within your family, you have a message that you want to get out. Second, that you want to build some positive relationships. You're looking to understand what does my message do, not only when it's being sent, but how is it being received, and how does that help me to build stronger relationships. The next one I'm going to make is that you want to improve. You know that you don't have all the answers, and so you're saying, well, how can I learn more, and how can I connect with some folks and build and connect with an organization like NBPRS and start to expand what I know about this fast-changing information. And lastly, that 60 minutes is not really enough, that we're going to have to follow up. There'll be, you can't get this whole topic that we're talking about in terms of a public relations renaissance, in terms of marketing, in terms of diversity in 60 minutes, but we want to give you as much as we can, and then we'll look forward to, some questions even on this session, and then certainly some follow-up. Some broad definitions. One thing I've learned is that it's very difficult to communicate if everyone is not on the same page in terms of some basic definitions as we get started. I published a nationally distributed magazine on the topic of diversity for a number of years, and one thing I learned that there were a diversity of definitions about the topic of diversity. So what I want to do is, just to get us all on the same page, I want to share with you some of the definitions that we'll be using today, and which may or may not vary from what you're doing. Diversity I'm going to define as people coming together with all of their uniqueness as well as their difference. Often we look at the uniqueness piece of it, but we miss the difference. And it's people coming together, whether that's at the workplace, whether that's in your family, whether that's in government. People are coming together, and as they come together, as we come together, we're bringing our uniqueness, and we're also bringing our difference. Next, marketing. Marketing we're going to define as a process in which we take the steps of planning and executing and creating, as well as setting up pricing, promotion, and distribution to get things out into the marketplace. The public relations end is going to be about managing the communications between an organization and its publics, and the publics will be the stakeholders, the people who need to know about the information that you're sharing, your target audience, we may call it in a marketing vein. And lastly, we're going to touch on information technology, and from information technology, it's not going to be the bits and the bytes and getting down into the details of it, but more from a management information technology perspective, more from the perspective of acquiring this information and being able to manage it and move it from point A to point B via computing and telecommunications. So we're moving the information from point A to point B, but instead of us walking it through, we're taking advantage of the digital technologies that are available to us. So those are some of the broad definitions that we'll be using as we go through the rest of the presentation. Now this is the money slide. I'll get right into it. The thing that's happening right now is that everything is converging, and I call it Convergence 3.0. And so when you look at the topic of marketing, we're out here in the marketplace, and you have products, you have service that you want to move to various target audiences. And we know the business of marketing is an industry all into itself, and most of us see about 5,000 to 10,000 marketing impressions per day. At the other end, as I go across the bottom of this triangle, you'll see the changing demographics of America, which leads to diversity. Now, we talked about the definition of diversity. The thing that's interesting is you look at the marketing connection to diversity is that the arrow goes both ways. So as marketing looks to provide information on products and services, it impacts diversity, but diversity also impacts the marketing that is going on. In the center, as we come up, you see at the center there's public relations. Now, public relations is in the center because you provide a bridge to both marketing and the diversity arena. Moss Kendricks, who is a legend in the public relations field and one of the founders of NAMD, he was back in 1952 had a slogan which was, "What the public thinks counts." That was the slogan for his firm, and it's still true today. So public relations, in terms of this renaissance, has this opportunity in between marketing and diversity to connect both, because the public relations area is sending information to marketing, but also these diverse segments are sending information up through the public relations arena and back and forth. And so we'll get more into this as we go forward, but you can see that on the between marketing and public relations, one of the things that happened is we're going to talk about the participatory media and conversational, and that's very important because that gets into things like the social media. It's very, things that are encouraging participation from the marketplace, which is new. On the other side, you have global communication. So we're seeing issues now, where you're communicating regularly with people in different time zones and in different countries around the world. So the whole issue of the communications now is that it's global and the reach is broad. And in the center, these are the things that are driving it. We've got digital technology, which is not just your computer, but your cell phone, which is under the mobile communications area. But just even if you're someone who's watching television, has gone digital. You've seen the pictures. If you're using things like Flickr, everything is moving into a digital technology that's had a huge impact in the marketplace, and in this convergence. Then you have social media. All of us are familiar with the various social media. Of course, the big ones. We'll talk some about those. And then also the internet itself as a vehicle and as a communication stream. And then the last one there is mobile communications. I'm sure everyone on this phone call and on this webinar probably has a cell phone, sitting next to them. I hope it's on mute. But we have a lot of these things that are coming together. And these things, as they come together, are really converging, and it's changing the way that the world really operates. So we're going to move on. As we go to our next slide, one thing you'll see here is the business case for diversity. Okay, the business case for diversity back in 1996, December of 1996, Business Week magazine published an issue that was called. Inside of that issue was a special section called Diversity Making the Business Case. It was about a 50-page special advertising section that had content in there from the conference board, and it really went into the business case for diversity and talked about those issues. And the interesting thing was that it went to the readers of Business Week, and of course the Business Week reader, you're talking about 6 million readers, 83% white male readership, and the conference board being based in New York is very authoritative business and research organization. So they provided this information that really helped us define the business case for diversity. So 1996, talking about 14 years ago, we saw that happening. At the time, I was publishing a magazine called Next Step Magazine, which was the first magazine to be distributed on the topic of diversity, and we got to do a special ad in that section and also help to market it. In addition, if we go back, as we set the context to where we are today, you'll see that diversity and Workforce 2000 and Census 2000 was all the buzz as we approached the millennium, and even people were talking about Y2K and were all the lights going to go out. So you look back then in that time, and you'll see that these were areas that were all discussing this issue of diversity. The workplace and academia, the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School put out a lot of research about the impact of diversity, and even at the federal government, there was the best practices in achieving workforce diversity document that was put out by the Department of Commerce and also Vice President Al Gore. So diversity was all the rage as we approached the year 2000. Let's fast forward now to 2010. Okay, we know now that we just had Census 2010. And many of us, provided the information. And what is happening and what we're seeing from these early indications about Census 2010 is that America is now more diverse than ever. It's more diverse than it was in 2000. The minority births are driving the growth in the U.S. And we're seeing, though, along with this diversity, along with these people coming together with all this uniqueness and all this difference, we're seeing a lot of the challenges that are also inherent in it, because diversity presents both an opportunity as well as a threat. Let's look at this big picture of diversity and as a global issue, not just often, people hear diversity and they may think of just race and gender or just black and white, and they're not seeing like the broad picture of it. So what's happened from 2000, when Census 2000 came out, to 2010, in that 10-year window, look at the diversity impact. One, of course, America elects the first African-American president in 2008. Today we're hearing about the don't ask, don't tell policy, same-sex marriage debate. You're seeing the North Korea and South Korea conflict. We're seeing a generational difference with Generation Xers and baby boomers and millennial generation. And on the political side, we're hearing talk about Social Security and health care. Even with religious diversity, you're hearing about, the Islamophobia and the Muslim backlash that's happened. You see the growth of the Tea Parties and this whole rebellion against the government. All of these things are diversity-related issues because they show what's happening as people are coming together with these similarities and these differences. Let's move into the marketing. From the marketing side, marketing is about moving the product. How do we get these products to move into the marketplace for profit? Okay, it's the saying, he who has a thing to sell and goes to whisper in a well is not as apt to get the dollars as he who climbs a tree and hollers. And that's what marketing is about. How do we then get this message out? How do we help to share what's happening to a target audience? And there's been a lot of developments, just as there have been in the area of diversity. There's been a lot of developments that have happened in the area of marketing. Some of those things that we've seen in the same window, in that same going back to like 1996, 2000 to today, some of the things that have happened in terms of marketing developments include the Internet actually happened. Back in 1996, back in 2000, the Internet was a lot slower. Everyone was on dial-up. You remember you hit a little, sound, a little tooting of the horn that you got on. Some people even called it the worldwide wait, because things were so slow. It wasn't like today, and we couldn't do the type of thing that we're even doing right now. So the Internet happened. Broadband came along, gave us speed. It gives us video. Also, community journalism was happening. People started writing about things in their local community. It wasn't just all about national messages. Of course, you had email that was going on, but email lists then exploded. Websites became personal, but first people had, they were corporate websites, but certainly then people started to put up, private websites or personal websites, and not just celebrities, but everyday persons. Of course, now on overdrive because we have blogs, and you see people putting up blogs and social media. So all of these things, particularly the mobile that's happening right now, mobile media and mobile marketing, are all major developments that have happened in the area of marketing and are really changing the way that that marketing even occurs, whether you're in a big company or if you're a one-person operation. And what does that mean? Well, if you combine the diversity then with these changes in marketing, what that means is that there are market segmentation opportunities that are available that you should be considering if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a large company, if you're an organization that's looking to grow your membership. How do you take these diverse segments then and begin to target them using some of the marketing information? And what are some of those segments? And on the screen you'll see a few. Of course, we've already talked about race and ethnicity, but also sexual orientation. You got age and generation. You got people with disabilities. You've got the urban marketing that can be done and geographic targeting. You're seeing a lot of those things happen even today when you see things like Groupon and different tools that are being used for that, Foursquare, and of course the internet. It gives you a whole range of marketing opportunities. And all of these segments that we see above, whether it's race and ethnicity, whether it's gender, if you're going to target women or you're going to target men, even youth that you want to target, these segments are fast growing. They are highly influential. They have large degrees of spending power, and they have global impact. So if you combine these things, you're able to really segment the marketplace, and companies that understand that, and entrepreneurs who understand that, and students who understand that are really going to be able to stand out as we move further into this next decade. So the question is, are you lost in the crowd? Is your marketing standing out? Is your public relations interacting with marketing in an effective way? Are you understanding these diversity opportunities? And if not, what's the cost? One market growth opportunity is Michelle Obama. What Michelle Obama has done for the first time in history has established something called the Michelle Obama effect on retail. $2.7 billion impact Michelle Obama has had on brands. And the way she does this is that just from selecting the clothes that she wears, the research has shown that those brands, there are about 26 brands that she has worn, and they've experienced a $2.7 billion impact. And it's not just because of her wearing them. The other thing that's happened is because of the technology, when she wears them, people are able to see what she wore, like the gloves she wore at the inauguration. Now, here's the thing. Not only do people see them, they can now purchase them online. You can not only see this glove, or you can now go online. She's telling you the store you got it from, and that is one of the reasons why we're seeing this market growth and this Michelle Obama effect that other first ladies weren't able to gather because of this convergence that we're talking about. Another opportunity is as we look at the youth market, 8 to 18-year-olds in the U.S., you're seeing a lot of people now who are multitasking, and if you're targeting a young audience, very few people now are using a single medium. They're not just watching television. They're not just reading a newspaper. They're not just online. They're not just, using one particular medium. Most of them, particularly if you're going after the younger demographic, you're going to have to come out with a strategy that looks at multiple marketing touch points. And that's a challenge because a lot of companies are not geared and have not set up their effort that way. In terms of some of the ethnic marketing opportunities, you look at the African-American market, which has been growing very rapidly. And Advertising Age came out with an article that said that marketers, and when we say marketers, we're talking about major brands here, are making a mistake because they fail to even expressly and specifically target the African-American segment, a $1 trillion marketplace, even though in 2008 some of those same companies tapped Barack Obama. Ad Age does something they call Marketer of the Year, and these companies voted and said in 2008 he won that recognition. However, some of those same companies cut their spending that should have been targeted to the African-American market. So that inconsistency is something that shows that they really are kind of missing the boat there. Another thing that we're seeing with these as marketing converges is that the consumers are becoming more educated and more empowered. Consumers now want reciprocity. There's a big thing going on with cause-related marketing. Many of you, may even participate in some of the things like the Susan Komen, Race for the Cure, and RED, and different things that are happening where consumers are saying, you know what, we want to know that companies are tied to us. And one thing that's happened is even within the African American community, we've seen the empowerment experiment, which is being led by Maggie Anderson and John Anderson out of Chicago, where they're asking black consumers to support black-owned businesses because many of these small businesses are not getting the talent, they don't get the people to work for their companies, they're not able to build generational wealth. And the point of it is there are other segments as well that are coming together, and they want to know from various companies, do you value our segment? Are we someone who is, as a group, on your radar? And many companies really, don't have a strong answer for that. So this can lead to the PR pitfalls. The PR pitfalls, as consumers have become empowered, as consumers are able to share information with people of like mind, as they're able to work in these various niches and organize, what's happening is this is putting a challenge to corporations and is leading to some very serious pitfalls. And basically, this moves us into the segment where we look at is your PR heading towards a crisis or a disaster? Now, what's the difference? A crisis is something we're going to define is very sudden. You didn't see it coming, and it has the potential. It might impact you financially in the long run, and it impact you in a negative way. The PR disaster, though, is that when you mishandle that early communication, that sudden event, particularly when it first happens, the harm gets multiplied. The publicity goes on overdrive, and the crisis snowballs and becomes even larger than the event itself. Now, you might wonder, well, does that actually happen? And what I want to show you are, some examples of that later on in the presentation. And we know that some PR challenges certainly are part of business. That's why companies hire PR firms, and why many of you work for PR firms is because a challenge that's part of doing business. If you're an oil company, you may have some spillage. Your car company, you got thousands of products coming down a manufacturing line. You may have a problem. Certainly, as an airline, you're going to have a disgruntled customer. Everybody's not going to be happy, going through. You expect some of that, and that's part of the normal flow of business. You can deal with that. What doesn't have to happen, though, are when you get these PR disasters where it really multiplies. For example, United Breaks Guitars. United Breaks Guitars is a song that was written by a group out of Canada. And they wrote this song because as they were sitting on a plane about to fly, they looked out the window and they saw their guitar cases being tossed around outside by the people working the tarmac. And so when one of the principals of the band tried to reach United and explain their situation and get redress, they got the typical bureaucrat response, and they got strung along, so they decided to create a video. They put the video up on YouTube. 9.6 million people have watched the video on YouTube, and they've been response videos turned into a very unflattering situation for United. Another negative national media spotlight situation, Kevin Smith, Too Fat to Fly. This is getting at Southwest Airlines, and the point here is on ABC World News. You've got, Diane Sawyer now talking about the company, and you've got Kevin Smith. He's a movie director. He has 1.8 million followers on Twitter. Now he's tweeting about the Southwest Air diet. He's putting the brand up into Twitter. He's got his people causing a lot of commotion, driving other media like national news and publicly really exposing a brand that was at the same time spending a lot of money on the marketing side to put out a positive message and put out positive branding. And so in comes this unexpected negative publicity out of left field, and it can really throw off your marketing effort. And this is why we're saying that, of course, PR is key, and by this Renaissance can help. Another one, even globally, with global implications, we all saw, of course, the BP fiasco during the summer with the oil and trying to get the cap on, and then the response and the people in the Gulf and the shrimpers, and they're showing the economic impact. So this is, again, a situation that early on the responses were not happening in a timely way. And the last one I want to show you in this area is Toyota. You all remember, the Toyota recall. And Toyota was particularly interesting because of the digital impact, because, again, of the websites and people being able to tweet about these things and go online and look at the corporate websites, look at the types of letters that are coming out from the CEOs and from the various market communications people, ineffective and being shared across the internet in real time. And again, this challenge means that many of these companies were not prepared, and so they were, in fact, riding for a fall. And how does this happen? One of the ways with this digital technology, of course, is we're in a blogger nation. You got people now sitting at the computer, going through Google and going through Bing, and they're at the ready, not only at the computer, but many working from even the mobile phone. So these things have come together, and most companies are not prepared for the rapid change that we're seeing. So, can you handle the truth is really what it comes down to as we start to get into the end of this and start to bring some of these things together. The PR Renaissance really presents an opportunity for professionals in public relations, for entrepreneurs, for organization leaders to really show some leadership on this issue, because most of the companies you'll find, and most even mid-sized or small companies, feel like, one of about 4 different attitudes that they can take. One is, it won't happen to us. So they watch other companies, go up in flames, and they feel like, hey, it ain't gonna happen to us. Another faulty belief they may have is, well, if we keep, stay out of the area, keep your head down, it'll go away in the long run. It's just a short-term impact. Another faulty belief they may have is, well, we'll just internally circle the wagons. We'll support ourselves. We'll become stronger internally. We won't worry about the external world. And the last really negative, faulty belief they may have is, it's just those kids on the internet. Don't even worry about it. This is just that newfangled internet thing. It doesn't mean nothing. It ain't got no impact. All of those things can lead your company or lead your enterprise into a PR disaster. These are some touch points that you really need to monitor as you look to take a leadership role and capitalize on this Renaissance opportunity. And that is, it'll vary for each of you in terms of who specifically you're going after, but certainly we all want to look at our customer base and analyze our customer base and see what is going on in terms of our various customer segments. The other area which a lot of people miss is you want to look at your competition, because often when the PR disaster happens, your competition helps to fan the flame of it. They'll jump in and start going after your clients. If you look at some of the things, even with United Brake Guitars, you'll find people who want to tag along and give you an alternative. So you want to look at what is your competition saying, because these beliefs will end up, if you're a large company, getting your CEO fired. So, this is something that impacts everyone all up and down the food chain. Another area that you want to look at is your employees. These are your internal salespeople. You want them to feel good. You want them to be have a positive impression. They're going home. their daughter or their wives or husbands are looking at what's happening in the press. So you want to make sure that you monitor the touch point of your employees, your board members. A lot of times people on the board, they get called in when these things happen. You got various tastemakers, people who are influential. They may not have an official title, but they're out there and they can impact your brand because these folks are people that other people listen to, other people follow their recommendations, what they like, what they don't like. So what are these tastemakers saying? Are you monitoring that touch point? The diversity segments I spoke about earlier, when we looked at race and gender and people with disabilities, how are those segments being monitored within your company, whether you're a large company again or a small company, really doesn't matter, but how are you tapping and keeping a pulse on those? And last one is global stakeholders. As you go around the world, because today, we live in a world that has gotten a lot smaller, and it's not just about what you're doing here in the U.S. It's about what's happening around the country, around the world, and it's what's happening really in real time. Because the other thing that's happened is time has become compressed. So as we close out, and I'll be ready to take some questions, is that in conclusion, what you have to understand is that market segmentation strategies are the key. We want to talk about some solutions, but you want to have market segmentation strategies that really interface smoothly with your overall brand message. And what do I mean by that? I'm saying that most, if you're a larger company or mid-sized or even small, you may have an overall message, and you should have an overall message about your brand, about your company. This is who we are. Within that overall brand, you must implement some segmentation strategies targeted to those various segments that we identify that complement and support the overall brand message. Not going, counter and away from it, but interacting with it and helping to smoothly introduce your overall brand message to these various segments so that the segments don't feel like you're forgetting about them, they're being excluded, or they're being taken for granted is another view. The other thing is, last tip or second tip here is not allowing problems to fester, because often what happens is the PR crisis doesn't have to become the disaster, but because you got so many people watching your brand, because of YouTube and because of Google and the way people are able to interact, people can really jump right over your defenses and parachute right into your circle wagons, land in your camp, and really get a message out that is negative and start to really blow this small issue into epic proportions. And so you got to want to look at how your brand is socialized and how well you tie it into that, because if you're very well socialized and people are talking about you on Facebook and your brand has a corporate page out there in the social world, then your problem can snowball even faster. And the third key point here is that in a diverse America, when we saw that the business case for diversity was being talked about back even in 1996, and when we saw all of these various changes that are happening even as we speak in America, why would any company not have a contingency plan for dealing with sudden emergencies? Because they can happen any day, a sudden emergency. Why would a company not do that? And I think that the answer is probably because they don't have an understanding of the convergence that we're talking about. They don't have the PR professionals that are giving them, the type of insight that you're getting on this call, and who can go in and understand that there's an interaction, there's a convergence between diversity, between marketing, between public relations, because traditionally, in a lot of entities, these things operate in their own silo, and that is not the way things are happening today. And even if they don't operate in their silo, they're not strategically being designed to work together and also be able to interact with the public in terms of the consumer marketplace. So with that, that is my, we're going to open up, to take a few questions, because perhaps, if you have a question, I'll swing it back over to Rochelle. And if you want to follow up, if you have other questions, for me, I'll put up my email as well as my website. And again, I appreciate being able to share this information with you. Rochelle? Rochelle's probably unmuting, perhaps.
Hi there, it's Wynonna Redmond. I was able to step back in. John, thank you for such a great job, and especially on contingency plans. I think Rochelle might be unmuting, or we might have the operator not releasing her voicemail. But excellent job.
Thank you.
Operator, are you with us?
Yeah, it looks like Rochelle disconnected.
Okay, that was probably a mistake. Do we have? I think that quite a bit of my career has been in crisis communication, so I really got a lot out of your presentation personally, because I've been in the unfortunate situation where we've allowed things to fester, and things that started off as a little nagging problem, especially being in the service industry like retail, where it can mushroom. And then with social media, like your United example, social media has made all of our jobs that much more busy. And if we, especially if we don't have the ability to hire firms to monitor for us, but it's definitely a growing niche. Operator, do we have any calls pending? Because we want to open up to callers.
If you would like to ask a question, please press *1 on your phone, unmute your line, and record your name clearly when prompted.
Okay.
Your name is required to introduce your question. To withdraw your request, press *2. One moment, please, for questions.
Okay, and I think Rochelle was back, so I'm going to turn it back over to Rochelle. But I did just want to say thank you, John. That was very good information. The contingency plan is key.
Thank you. I totally agree. So that's another real-world testimonial to what happens. Rochelle, you're back.
I'm back. I apologize. Right. I was so excited I hit the wrong button. and I was thinking about if I were a betting woman, I would bet that this whole presentation that you just delivered was done without any notes. And I've seen you make presentations that way before, and what it speaks about is your passion, the passion that you have for the work that you do. And I could probably speak on behalf of many people and say that 1 hour really isn't enough. You've given us a wealth of information and insight, and if I might throw in a couple of questions while we're gathering other questions either from the internet or from the call. Okay.
Well, thank you. I definitely, and you're right, you would win that bet. But it took a while to put the slides together, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I bet that was a challenge. Sometimes it's not enough to identify the problem. Success sometimes is in the depth of analysis that we as PR people, marketers, hybrid position holders bring to the table. And you coined a phrase early on, it's a perfect storm. You know, we're in a season where everything that we held true or we knew to be consistent or that we held on to as a routine is being challenged and shaken. And we need to be in a position to counsel, to fix, and to anticipate, the changes that are still yet, to come, because I believe that we have not hit bottom in many industries. So there'll be a new normal. So I'm going to do something I saw earlier. I'm going to, like Katie asked Sarah Palin, what do you read? What are some of the things that you're reading that you can share with us? We might have some people who are students that are on the call, and even some people in mid-career. What are some resources or websites that you bookmark on a regular basis that helps to round out your knowledge and put you in that position as an expert?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. One thing I would recommend certainly is Black Enterprise. I mean, you got to, in terms of the business world, you want to be up on Black Enterprise and what's happening, because that's the #1 business type publication, particularly for the corporate professionals, entrepreneurs. You can get a lot of ideas there. There's a lot of various sections. They also bring the website element to it, and you want to subscribe. It also allows you to support, Black-owned media, which I think is important. The other thing is your industry journals. Like I read Ad Age, and a lot of these things that I do, like with Ad Age, I get them delivered, to me. I get the New York Times delivered, to me electronically, and then also I get technology information delivered to me, and also I read Alternet. Alternet is something I recommend, Alternet.org, because with Alternet, I think it's ALTER. What happens is you get different perspectives, because a lot of times if you get locked in, when you're looking, if you're trying to push into these diversity segments that I'm talking about, you want to hear from the people in the segments. And what happens is, if you just go to, just one news source, one mainstream type news source, you're not going to hear directly from, if it's people with disabilities, or if it's someone in, like right now, I'm talking about something in Switzerland. With the internet gives you that opportunity to connect directly with those people. So I do a lot of things, I'm on Twitter. I follow a lot of people in the marketing arena, the public relations arena, but certainly Ad Age, the New York Times, as well as Business Week are some of my favorite places to go. And also Mashable. I find a lot of good info on Mashable.
Okay. I have more questions, but I want to pause and see if Andrew's got any questions coming in from the internet or from callers.
There's a question from Akosa Alberton. You have an open line?
Can you hear me?
We can. I can hear you.
Oh, great. I want you to go over again about when you were going over the touch points. I must have blanked out when you were talking about taste makers. Will you go over that again?
Yes. Tastemakers are people who can impact your brand, particularly like if you're in radio. Often, like with a radio station, like they'll call in people who listen to a particular station and bring them in, because we want to say it's almost similar to like bringing together a focus group. So, but the tastemakers are people who, if you read Malcolm Gladwell's book where he talks about the mavens, these are the people who you touch one of them and everybody wants to be like them. They're the person they're going to travel to get the new pair of LeBron James' sneaker when it first came out. They're people who are on the leading edge. Some people will refer to them as the innovators. They were the people who got the iPad. When it came out, they were sitting in line, camped out. They're not just getting them now for Christmas. They already have them. So these people in any organization you have, or any brand, you have people who are really attached to your brand, and they're tastemakers. And some of them, if you don't have them, you want to attract them into your brand. So they're the most influential, for example, in the African American segment, it's the 12 to 18-year-old African American male in the inner city is the tastemaker for the Air Jordan brand. Believe it or not, and I got that from the president of Air Jordan at the time.
And you just mentioned the name of a book and the author. Will you say that again, slower?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the name of the book is called The Tipping Point.
Oh, Tipping Point.
Tipping Point, yeah, by Malcolm Gladwell.
Okay.
Yeah, and in there he talks about, tastemakers. And he talks about, the mavens and how, these people, these tastemakers, though, are the ones who are very influential, and you don't need a lot of them, but you get a few of them involved, and they can really, make things go viral in that way.
And to what extent do you think, you've heard of crowdsourcing, right?
Yes.
to what extent crowdsourcing gets into the mix of PR or marketing?
Oh, I think crowdsourcing is great. I think I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of the technology tools we're seeing are really just mirroring what you do offline. I think crowdsourcing is great because at the end of the day, what it's doing is it's bringing together a large audience, and then you are going back into that audience and segmenting it out. You know, here, like if you look at like Facebook, I mean, Facebook is just it's a crowdsourcing, farm, and you got 500 million users. I don't know if they're not really users, but 500 million people go in there, segment it out, and it can be very cost effective because see, before you would have to pay, bring these people to a room, put up a two-way mirror. Now, you can follow, go in and click the like button and get in with those folks. I think crowdsourcing can be very effective, particularly for small, small businesses who should be mirroring a lot of the things that you see major multi-billion-dollar multinationals do. Now, the playing field is level enough that you can apply some of these same technologies as a one-person operation. So I think crowdsourcing is a great opportunity.
All right, and then when you were just talking about Facebook and how you said as hello?
I'm still here.
Oh, okay, because I just heard like a dial.
Oh, yeah, it's a phone. Someone's phone is ringing.
Sorry about that.
Mine.
What you just said about Facebook as being a form of crowdsourcing, I guess at another time you need to do a webinar just on that.
Okay.
Yeah, because I can't readily see how
you can't
to
make
do
that
it.
connection. Okay.
Yes, but I mean, if someone could walk me through it, that would be wonderful.
Maybe for the conference. We'll talk to Rochelle and Winona and see if they can make that happen. But yeah, you're right. I mean, and that's the thing. There's a lot of things that are happening where you can use these tools, but you have to know how to use them. It's not just going on and playing Farmville and putting up the flyer about your party this week. A lot of the same tools, even with your cell phone, a lot of the ways that Americans use cell phones are totally different than the way people use them in Jamaica or in, Afghanistan, these various places. So, but it's the same tool. But it depends on how you use it. So, yeah, I think this comes back to knowing what your focus is. Like, if your focus is to be, economically empowered, grow your business and so forth, you got to start with, well, what is my goal? Same with, I say people with marketing. You don't just get into social media, whatever type of media because of that media. You got to go back to what is my goal and how do these tools help move me towards the accomplishment of my goal.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And also be sure to check out, if you go to normbond.com, if you go to my website, you'll see a link to normbondmarkets.com. And I have some articles on there about Facebook. I may have something on crowdsourcing. But if you go there, and add your, join, follow me, that's something I do talk about on in normbondmarkets.com, which is another way to connect with me.
Norm Bond Markets.
Markets.com. Yeah. And if you just go to Norm Bond, and if you go to my site, normbond.com, you'll see a link.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from a participant with Health Systems. You have an open line.
Hi, this is Jennifer Johnston with Christiana Care Health System in Delaware.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi. I have been following your career since about 1993.
Oh, wow.
I remember the magazine, and I live in the Philadelphia area, so I really appreciate the presentation this afternoon. It was great.
Thank you so much, and thank you for following my career. You've seen a lot of ups and downs.
We're still here.
Good. Well, be sure to, again, connect with me. I love to get caught up.
Okay. Well, I do have a question, and it kind of piggybacks on the last question. Are there any resources or sources that you could recommend that have some research or some metrics or data on minority and specifically African American and Latino use of social media and apps?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's see. well, let me think for a minute. One is definitely follow up with me and shoot me that, but definitely there are some. In fact, one is the Pew Center. I mean, if you go like the Pew Center, and if you send me like I said, contact me, I'll send you a link. But I put some information out about that particularly it showed the over usage or over indexing of African Americans on mobile, and not only did this report come out showing the over indexing, but it showed how African Americans use the applications more. Like we use the cell phones. Not only do we overuse the cell phone, but we overuse the various features of the cell phone, everything from voicemail to texting and so forth. But yeah, there's a lot. I've got a number of links and so forth I could send you for some data like that. But Pew Center has a few of those reports up on there. At least as recently as a month ago, they had some of them up on their website, PDFs. You can just download them.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
There are no further questions at this time.
Norm, this is Rochelle. I'm going to jump in and ask another question.
Okay.
All right. I want to go back to one of the slides that you had up about customers or consumers who want reciprocity.
Yes.
And you were speaking a little bit about Maggie and her empowerment.
The empowerment experience.
Yeah. Now, let's go a little old school.
She's going to be in Philadelphia tonight, too. For those who might be listening in the Philly area, she will be at the African American Chamber event. Had to give a quick plug.
Nice plug. Nice plug. Oh, the quintessential marketer. Does letter writing and boycotting advertisers that don't have advertisements that reflect, the diverse market that actually buys their product, do those old school, and I'm using air quotes, old school techniques still work?
Wow, that's a great question. And I would say my short answer to that would be yes. My long answer would be it has to be more integrated and updated. Like, for example, because so many people now, get on the internet. You can add more to a letter writing campaign if you also tie that to some type of a survey online. And the other thing I would say is that if you can, rather than say to people boycott, like there's a number of companies I think that should be boycotted, but rather than saying, okay, boycott brand A, we have to be strategic and say, not just say boycott brand A, but say support brand B, and here's why. And then prior to calling for that action, have negotiated some type of a relationship with brand B that gives, if it's supplier diversity, if it's employment, and so forth. So then you turn it into a press announcement. You turn it into a campaign. It has to be more strategic. And what happens is today, I see people they get victimized. I'll use that word, and then they launch like a one-person boycott. And that'll never be effective, and it's because it's not strategic. So, but I think certainly people still respond to letters, they still respond to faxes, because not everyone's on the internet. Even though you got the usage, particularly if you look at the seniors, and even if you do political campaigns and call some of your political leaders, they'll still say, "Send me a letter, send me a fax." They want it, in that old school way. So it's still effective. But combine it, don't use it in isolation.
Okay, thank you. Andrew, do we have any more calls or emails coming in with questions?
I'm showing no further questions over the phone.
Okay, Norm, we are right at 1:30 Eastern. So,
okay, and on time.
Yeah, that's right. I just want to say a few things before we close. First, thank you. Thank you again for presenting depth of analysis and information for us. The webinar will be available for replay so that folks can study the information that you've provided.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. And like I said, I think it's great what NBPRS, what you guys are doing and making it available to the audience. I really respect and look forward to this being the beginning and staying connected with you guys.
Wonderful. We will take you up on that offer. If I could just close out with a couple of things. I wanted to remind our listeners that our membership drive continues now until December 15th. If you join or renew your membership for just $99,
You will have access to some great benefits, such as early notification of our 2011 lineup, access to our job bank, and a member rate to the national conference that Winona mentioned earlier. It will be held October 2011 in Milwaukee. Membership also gives you an opportunity to connect with other peers and potential mentors. And the one thing that we're really excited about is your membership will give you access to be listed in our first ever 2011 Network at Work Guide. It's a historic compilation of African Americans in PR, including profiles of trailblazers and leaders, executives at every level in the corporate world, agency owners, professors, suppliers, vendors, and chapter information. So visit our website, www.nbprs.org, to join or renew today. And again, thank you, Norm.
Thank you, Rochelle. Appreciate all your follow-up, too.
Absolutely. And thank you for putting your contact information. I'll invite our callers and listeners to take advantage of his email, his web address, and all of the information that's available at normbond.com. And on behalf of Norm and the Board of Directors, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you and have a great rest of the day. Goodbye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining today's conference. You may disconnect.